Today, I'm going to demonstrate how to create this super cool bokeh effect with watercolor paint. I'm going to be using one of my pre-printed designs from the Holiday Ornaments set. And I chose this one because it has a lot of background space to practice this technique. You'll want to tape down your paper as we're going to be bringing that paint all the way to the edge today. I'm spritzing up my paints and ready to get started. As always, I will be reviewing all the supplies I used here today at the end of the video in full detail. Again, I'm using one of my pre-printed designs here. I have a link below if you are interested in looking at all the sets I offer. The sets are a great way to keep up on your watercolor practice and give you constant and immediate inspiration when you want to sit down and paint. If you do not have the specific design in front of you today, you can sketch a similar design or something entirely different, or you can just practice the bokeh effect on a 4x6 piece of watercolor paper. I do highly recommend that you use 100% cotton paper for this technique. When doing wet-on-wet applications like we're going to be doing today, you really need that quality paper that will allow for good absorption and blending capabilities. And you've been watching me paint my cute little candy ornament here. I do recommend painting your subject first before doing the background. And I chose two different colors for the candy, a red and a raspberry color. I'm keeping this pretty watered down to start with, just allowing the watercolor paint to blend and do that watercolor magic we love. Then I will go back and touch in specific areas with additional paint to create some depth and dimension, maybe at the edges and at the creases of the wrapper. I'm also doing a little splattering with some gold metallic paint, and I will be using that same gold for the little metal detail at the top of the ornament. I love doing mixed media, and I'll be using acrylic markers at the end of the process. So if those little metal details are hard for you, you could use a pen. Just hold off till the end to do that part. And a good fine tip brush will be your best friend if you're painting small details like this. But again, if you're going to use a pen, then just wait till the end. Watercolor paint almost always dries lighter than what it may seem at first. So after it dries, you can always go in with more color like you see me doing here. To get started with the bokeh background, you're going to want to prep some paint into a nice milky consistency. I'm going to do a yellow glowy inspired background. So I'm choosing like a honey yellow as my primary color. I will also use a few other colors as well when the time comes. Make sure you have a few small sheets of paper towel. And for the circle shapes, I'll be using a few coins. You'll want a few different sizes. The quarter's a good size along with the dime. And if you want a third size, maybe like a penny or a nickel. Using the different sizes will create that random light effect that we'll be striving for. I'm using a flat brush to coat all of the background area with. And that flat brush allows for precise control as well as quick paper coverage. For this technique, you will want to have a good amount of water, but also paint. It just can't be watery. You need the paint or the pigment there because we are going to be doing a lifting technique, and it won't work if you have too little paint on the paper. So fill up your sections with watery paint, but if it seems too light, add in more concentrated paint as well. You can see me going in here and adding in additional amounts of paint and just dabbing it around. I'm also going to add a brighter shade of yellow for a glowy contrast, and I'm also going to be adding a warm pink color. The trick here is not to overblend. So you can see I added in that pink, but then I'm going to very gently blend that color. Try to allow the colors to hold their own space. So the gentle blending is okay, but just don't blend away that supplementary color. When you feel you have enough paint on the paper, you're going to take your quarter and wrap it in a piece of paper towel. You're going to wrap it tight so you keep that perfect circle shape. Then you will press that into the wet areas. After 1 to 2 presses, the paper towel will be saturated, so move the quarter to a new section of the paper towel and repeat the process. Then you can do the same thing with the dime. This can be quite fun, but remember that the goal isn't to remove all the paint. You will want some random circles, but you will also want the bright colors to be there as well. And you can definitely overlap the circles. That will help with the depth of the whole scene. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. It's exactly in the same way with the same techniques. I did speed this up a little bit just to keep the video moving, but it really is all the same techniques. So what is bokeh? Bokeh is actually a photography term, spelled B-O-K-E-H. Bokeh refers to the aesthetic quality of the blur produced in out-of-focus areas of an image, enhancing the visual appeal of the photograph. Bokeh is actually derived from the Japanese word spelled B-O-K-E, which means blur or haze. In photography, it describes the quality of the out-of-focus area in an image, particularly how light points are rendered when they fall outside the depth of field. You see this effect a lot in photographs of like night street photography, or maybe like at the holidays with the Christmas lights. To achieve that bokeh effect, photographers typically use a wide aperture setting on their camera lens, and this allows for a shallow depth of field, which blurs the background and the foreground while keeping the subject in focus. So that's what we're trying to create here today. Our ornament is clear and in focus, and we are creating a background with soft, hazy circles to represent a light-filled background that is out of focus. Now, if you feel like you have removed too much paint and your background looks a little washed out in some places, you could go back in and add more paint. I'm showing you here how to do that. But I am using my paper towel to dab and distress the newly added paint so it blends seamlessly. Don't feel like you need to do a lot of this. The background should have a random and distressed look. That is the whole point of the application. So do this part gingerly and try to keep that soft and distressed look there. For a final touch to this glowy look, I'm also going to splatter it with a little more gold paint, using the same gold that I used earlier. I try to do this while it's still wet to contribute to that soft look. If your splatters are too prominent, you can just use your finger to smudge them a little, but I just love adding that little pop of sparkle at the end of this process. Any other details beyond this point are really just creative preferences. Using mixed media can be a totally fun way to add more depth to your art. Here are some different pen options. Obviously, a micron would be great to use. A Uniball, the gold pen is great to use. What I'm going to use today are acrylic markers, though. I have 3 of them from Grabie, a gold, a white, and a black. So I'll be using these to just add those little bits of touches and a little bit of definition to the art. A tip with acrylic pens, acrylic markers, make sure you test them out on a scrap piece of paper first, get that paint flowing, just making sure that no big blobs of paint come out. You don't want to do that on your art. You'd be disappointed if you spent all that time and then had a big piece of paint that blobbed out. I love using the gold. It's just an accent color. I'm just I really am just randomly making lines. They can be outside of the art. It can be around the art. I'm just flitting it around. It's kind of like my emotion or like the glowy effect. So don't overthink the gold. But the black is a different story. The more black pen you use, the more illustrated your art is going to look. So I always recommend starting light, going slow, being thoughtful, touching around the outsides and a few key points here and there, and then just let it evolve in the way that your heart tells it to evolve. If you just want a little bit, then leave it with just a little bit. If you want a more illustrative look, then you would keep going with the black. So this part is just a little gingerly. You can do things like breaking up that line. You can stipple. You can add squiggles. Again, total creative preference at this point. Just have fun with it. Take this part as far as you want to go. After this, I'm going to be using the white acrylic marker. Now, the white acrylic marker, you could use in highlights. Sometimes with watercolor, we lose that light or white space. I did attempt to leave some in the center of my candy, but if you've lost that, then an acrylic marker or some white paint is a great way to bring some of those highlights back. So don't be afraid to use mixed media at the end of your art. And that's all I'm doing here. I'm just adding a little bit of white touches here and there. Hey, thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate you and your support. I would love it if you subscribe to my channel, watch future videos. I really hope this was inspiring for you. Save it for later. And drop any questions you might have below. All right, pulling off that tape. And as promised, here is all the supplies that I used today. The paints are from Grabie. This is actually Grabie's premium watercolor set. This is the 100 count. It has the metallics in it, but super fabulous, highly pigmented, saturated colors, really fun to use, easy to use. As I mentioned before, the paper is from my pre-printed sets. It was 100% cotton. They're size 4x6s. I had them taped to a acrylic plexiglass board. I used this flat brush. It's a size 6, and I believe the brand is Artegria. And I also used some Grabie Fine Point brushes. Wooden handles, ergonomically shaped. I love these brushes so much. The tape that I use was also from Meeden. I think that's like a 1/2 inch size artist tape. And then the ceramic palette is also from Meeden, but this one's pretty accessible. I think you can pick up similar type ceramic dishes almost anywhere. So I have quite a few of them. Great to have. Metallic gold paint came from Kuretake. It's their Starry colors set. I think it's like all gold and 1 silver, but really pigmented metallic paint. I love it. And then, as I mentioned before, Grabie acrylic markers, the gold, the white, and the black. I used all 3 of these. And then to do the bokeh effect, you just needed some little squares of paper towels and then a few coins. And that's pretty much it for the supplies that I used today. Again, if you have any questions, just drop them below or send me a message. And I've had a lot of people ask, as far as the sets, like, what do you do with them? You know, like, once you paint them, what do you do with them? Well, first and foremost, I created these sets for practice, to inspire and to encourage consistent practice. And that's why I have quite a few of them. I'm developing more every month, but they're just to get you to practice. But if you have some that you're super proud of, or you want to share, They're 4x6, so that is a frameable size. And then this right here is I call it a window card, but basically you're allowed to, not allowed to, but able to slip a 4x6 photo, or in this case, a 4x6 art on the inside, and you have an immediate card to send off. Great for the holidays, super fantastic. But anyway, those are just some quick ideas as far as the sets go. And again, I appreciate you all so much. Subscribe, check out my other videos, and thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.